Today we're going to be helping my dad with his brand new 2025 Ford F-150 PowerBoost. He lives in the Pacific Northwest, so the more light output he can get, the better. So today we're going to be installing a 30-inch light bar that goes behind the grill that is from M&R. He also has a wireless switch panel that we're going to be installing as well. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is under the hood, you have to remove this plastic piece right here. And we're going to be removing this by pulling out push pins using some pry tools. There we go. So in true Erica fashion, I dropped one of the pins down here, but the good news is I'll be able to get it because we're going to be taking off the grill anyway. So now I'm removing this piece right here because in reality, these pieces probably should have stayed together, but I got a little too overzealous. There we go. And you can see these two probably should have stayed like that. So when you pull it out, you should probably pull it up to that right there. And then this should be able to come right out. So I lifted it up just a little bit. Gonna try to lift it up a little bit more using a pry tool. Right there. Now, I should be able to use my pry tool to get underneath and lift the whole piece out. Just like that. Now I'm working on a push pin that is in front of the intake. Now that the push pins have been removed, you can go ahead and slide this out. Just make sure you lift your intake a little bit, and then it should come right out. You might have push pins that extend all the way to the side. For us, we just have 5 in the front. The next step is to go ahead and remove the 2 7mm bolts that are in the wheel well right here. With those bolts removed, you can release this trim piece right here. Woo! Oh, there you go. So the next thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be removing this 10mm bolt in here. I am using a 10mm on an extension just to get in there. There you go. After removing the 10mm that are underneath that trim piece, you're now going to move up here. There are 4 10mm bolts holding the grill into place right here. We now have to go ahead and disconnect these 2 connections here. Now, my dad does have a front-facing camera. That's why we are removing these. If you don't have a front-facing camera, you probably won't have these. There you go. There's one. So I'm going to push this black tab in right here, and then I'm going to pull up, and that releases it. Next to that, we do have a pin that is into the plastic that I'm going to be removing. With everything removed, your grill is now ready to pop out, so you do just have to pull it. There we go. Now that we have the grill removed, we actually have to work on removing the piece that has these slats right here. The side here, 2 on this side, 2 on the other side. Now we're going to be removing this bolt right here. This is an 8mm bolt and it's right in the middle. And now I'm going to be working on the bottom here where I'm going to be removing these push pins. There we go. So these clips right here, there's 3 of them. You want to use some kind of pry tool to push it in and then separate it at the same time. So I'm going to try to squeeze this just in there like that. There we go. That's one. So you saw that I kind of just pushed the the pry tool between just to create that space, then you're able to pull right up. Pull it right up. So in order to get it disconnected from the front, I'm just gonna go ahead and push on it down like that. So I disconnected the camera cord right here just by pressing down on the tab and then pulling it out. Now this should be ready to lift right off. And I'm gonna set this aside carefully and you have access to your grill. Now what you wanna do with these mounts is you wanna make sure the flat side is going to be on the, facing the bottom side of the grill. So for instance, we decided we wanted this light bar to be at the top of the grill. So the flat piece is sitting towards or facing the bottom of the grill. So now I'm just going to be installing the light bar to the mount using the provided bolts that they have. I'm only going to hand tighten this to start because we will want to make adjustments a little later. When putting the bolt into the actual light bar, you do want to make sure you go bolt, lock washer, normal washer. I just flipped over the mount for right now so I can tighten it because since I'm not tightening it fully, I'll be able to flip it back over right after. Hand tight. Flip it over, and now we're ready to go ahead and put it onto the grill. Now that we have the light bar placed in here, I'm now going to be using a zip tie to just kind of keep the cord right here. We don't want it to get caught in the slats that go back on the back. And then I will just trim that off. I'm now going to be reassembling the grill by lining it up. And before I snap anything back into place, I am gonna make sure to re-plug in the connector that I disconnected earlier. There we go. And now we want to make sure we start in reverse order. So we are going to be lining up the pins at the bottom. And now I should be able to just push down. There we go. I'm now reinstalling the liner just by making sure it's on correctly and pushing those pins back into place. Some of these you do have to give a little more force to, so you might see me using the heel of my hand, which is really good. Just don't force it, because if you have to force it, it might not be aligned with the hole correctly. I'm reinstalling the 10mm nuts right here onto these bolts. Now I'm just gonna hand tighten. I'll go back and tighten everything up before we reinstall into the truck. So now I'm putting the 8mm bolts back in. And now we're gonna be tightening down the last of the bolts using a 10mm. So before you go and reinstall the grill, this is your opportunity to make some minor adjustments to your light bar. So what I was doing is I was pushing on the top and pulling on the bottom to make it face just a little bit more down. We're now gonna go take the grill and reinstall it back into the truck. Okay, so I'm going to be making this connection right here by sliding this piece back on, and then reconnecting it, and then from there, taking this piece, aligning it, pushing it down, and pushing the lock down. I'm now going to push this pin back into place. Now we're going to reinstall the two 10mm bolts that are in this weird pocket down here. There you go. Go like this. Okay, now hold on. You gotta get it all the way under. Align. Okay. You may have noticed when we were reinstalling the grill that we have these new pod lights right here. Now we do have a separate video on that, so if you are interested to see how we installed them, go ahead and click the link in the description below. We're now reinstalling those 7mm screws back on the side. Once we have the grill reinstalled, I just took the cable that is running from the light bar here, and I went into this hole, and then it went up and out over here, so it's just out of the way. Before I put the trim piece back on top, I do need to replace these 4 bolts right here, 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 and here. Now that everything is back in and right in place, we're gonna go ahead and take this plastic piece and realign it underneath the intake. So these 4 are the bigger push pins, and they actually go right in these holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these are the ones that we used a flathead to lift up the top piece, and then right here. And these ones go 1, 2, 3. Once that's aligned, I can just push that piece down. So I'm working on reinstalling these pins back into place, because now that I put in all the specialty pins, these just go in all the remaining holes. Now to mount the switch panel, we are actually using the brackets that came with it. However, we did bend it, make sure that it fit underneath the hood. And now we're gonna be taking the bolts that came with the switch panel to install it to this piece right here. I drilled holes here, that way we can install it right there. We are now going to be mounting the actual box to those brackets. Now we do have the holes lined up. They do come with these bolts here and the nuts. We are also going to add locking washers as well as normal washers just for extra security. Now that we have it mounted, I'm just unscrewing it so we can open the lid and get to wiring. So what we need to do next is we need to go ahead and connect the circuit breaker to the box itself. So I'm now gonna take the red wire and I'm gonna run it to this screw right up here. Now the way I'm gonna run this, I'm actually gonna run it so it's up and through here, and then I want to run it up and around the top just like that. The reason I'm running it like that is because I'm going to be running the ground down here through here, and you're supposed to make sure your positive and negative lines are not close enough that if the wire tubing fails, they don't touch. Positive is now on, so now we can go ahead and run the negative, which was the black wire that was included in the kit. I am tightening the ground here, and now we're ready to connect the positive and the negative to the battery. Now the red cord that is on top of the switch is now going to go to the battery. We have this pre-loosened, but it was a 12mm. There we go. Now we're gonna be connecting the ground wire to this post right here, so I will just loosen it. Now this is a 10mm. And then we go ahead. Then we put it underneath the nut and we tighten it up. Right now we're working on connecting the actual light bar. Now we are gonna be connecting the light bar to a 20 amp right here. Now the way this works is there are just little flathead screws on the inside that I'm gonna loosen, stick the wires in, and then tighten down the screw onto the wire. Okay, we test it. That one's good. And do the ground for that same one. Tighten. Okay. Okay, that one's in there. So we went to go pair the remote to the actual box, and we were coming across nothing. Nothing was working, so we went and tested the voltage. Everything was on, so we decided to try something else. We went ahead and we pulled the positive from the box, letting it reset. Then we went ahead, reconnected it, tightening it back up. And in the instructions it says this, but it's not very clear. Within the first minute of the box being powered on like this, you now have to go ahead and program the remote. So the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna click and hold the power button for 5 seconds. Oop. Click and hold the power button for 5 seconds, like so. And then you're gonna find the 5th button counterclockwise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and click it 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you can see up here, the green light is blinking, which means, or was blinking, which means that it is now connected, it is ready. And if I were to click the button for the actual light bar, which was B number 4, it'll light up now. So now that everything is secured, tested, and installed, we can go ahead and put the lid back on and secure it in place with the screws. So now comes the fun part, which is actually labeling our remote. We are gonna do the bright white pod light, and then we're going to put 2 and 3 for the amber and the white. And then the last one is going to be light bar. So the mounting on this is really easy, which is cool. This is a magnet that has 3M tape on the back, which we're gonna go ahead and stick where we want to mount it. And then it just connects right there to the remote itself. So we decided we're going to mount it up here. We did prep the surface with some rubbing alcohol just to make sure it adheres. And now, there it is. The installation is complete, and I have to say I am loving the discreet look of this light bar. If he had the light bar turned off, you wouldn't even be able to tell that he has one, which I think is really cool. The light output itself is impressive during the day, but is even more impressive at night. Now, if you're interested in the light bar or the control panel, we're gonna go ahead and leave those links down in the description below. And if you wanna see how these pod lights turned out and how to install them for yourselves, go ahead and click this video right here. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.